What's up, everyone, and welcome back to yet another episode. What you look at? You look confused. Oh yeah, we forgot.
There's no Paul. There's no Dan.
We're going.
Yep, we've there we go. Replace him. Replace him.
This guy?
He's
What are we
been
gonna
replaced.
name him? What is this?
This is a new fake
Patrio
plan.
blend.
What is this called?
He's fake.
Monkey grass.
It's,
is it monkey
mon-
grass?
It
Or would
looks
this
like
be a
monkey
fescue?
grass. No, that's not.
Sure.
I mean, maybe.
That's
it looks like monkey
That's
grass.
That's bluegrass.
Bluey.
Bluey.
Let's talk about Bluey.
Yeah.
I watched my first
There's
episode.
some good podcasts about Bluey, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
I watched my first episode.
That's what people
My
tune
wife
in for.
apparently is on board
People-
with Bluey, and my kids are like, "Yeah, we kind of like Bluey," and my daughter, who's 12, is like, "I'd watch Bluey." I'm like,
What?
"Why don't we start
You,
watching some
your
Bluey?"
wife, and your daughter will end up watching it way more than your son does.
Landon would be like,
What is this?
this
Because
is
it's
real
like
dogs.
it's really good for kids. It's great for adults. Like you get
and they're
so
dogs.
Yeah.
And
This
it
is
just-
riveting content here,
It
guys.
Bluey, baby.
What's
We
up,
haven't even
everyone?
you
I'm
haven't
Joe.
Introduced anybody
I'm
yet?
Joe. This is Gabriel,
Hi, how's it going?
and Roberto is here as well.
Yes, in lieu of Dan and Paul.
Yeah, we've we just forgot.
Joe just retired him.
my brain is not working, and so here we are. We're rolling. We're doing it. Let's talk about
happening.
why Robbie's gonna buy a Tesla. Let's get that out of the way.
Just get it out of the way,
you know,
I'll find
you
a way
know
to
he's
weasel
gonna
it in.
weave. He's gonna weave it in somehow if we don't just talk about it now.
I give him. What is today?
I think
I'd
Monday
say end of
he's
the
gonna-
month.
I think
Very-
Monday he's gonna have one
We're
ordered.
looking. We're looking.
Yeah,
at
it all
Friday,
depends on
heading down.
the Honda situation.
Yeah. So yeah, that
Yeah.
selling my current car obviously will inform that quite a bit. If I get some deals on that, then I'll move even
Let me
faster.
check. I
but
may have already sold it.
I'm
I'm moving pretty
not
quick
yet.
already.
We went to Vegas. We got in the Vegas Loop. Rode in that
was a
was an
Model
X, and Robbie's hooked.
We rode in a 3 in one of our
Ubers,
rides. One of
yeah.
our rides because
Yeah.
I remember you and I sat in the back.
Yep. And we were like, oh yeah, this is
'Cause we rode
not
the
Because
Model-
they always
much
make me
different.
sit in the front with the driver, and I feel weird.
Yeah.
Well, we rode in a
I'm just
Model
kidding.
Y in on a pretty long
California.
Yeah.
trip in California.
was
'cause
really nice.
We were away from the
That one
airport.
time he accelerated, he was like trying to maybe take the one
almost-
exit, or
I
he
almost
was,
giggled.
He was on the on ramp. I literally got giddy.
All I could think was engage the slingshot.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Gosh, and it doesn't matter how fast you're going. It's just auto. You get
Yeah.
the speed there for you anytime you need
Instant.
it. But it was a combination of that and the Y, like having all that room and stuff. I'll say this about the Model Y. I like the idea of it because there's a little more headroom and a
Yeah.
little more space. I think the vehicle itself looks a tad bit derpy. It's okay.
Yeah.
But like
Can't
I feel
decide
like
if it's a sedan or a
Yeah.
crossover or an
and like
SUV.
my vehicle is a crossover, and I love the way it looks. I
Yeah,
like the way it sits and everything. The Y just it looks like a car with an expanded forehead kind of thing.
Yeah.
It just looks. It's not my favorite looking vehicle, but functionally, I was like, well, I guess that would,
nice
that would
having
probably
extra
be
room.
the right thing for me to do. But
you
then
don't
when we
have-
sat in that Model 3. I was like,
Yeah.
this is still really
Plenty
roomy.
of room.
Yeah.
because there's so many elements in a Tesla you don't need
You're-
that of a regular car that go away.
Right.
Like a flat floorboard in the back seat it's different. Like you're like, oh, this is like just flat across here. Like there's no hump and there's not stuff in the middle because there's not a big drivetrain going up and down the center of the car. So, yeah, we sat in the back and I was super comfortable in the back. And if I'm comfortable in the back seat of a car,
Yeah.
there's plenty of room in that car.
Yeah.
And so you got the trunk and the frunk and
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff and the minimalist panel with just the thing in the center. And I don't know. It's the first time I've gotten in a Model 3.
See, that's my only big dislike, and it's not just electric vehicles, it's just the trend in general. I don't care for that. I understand it serves a grand purpose and you need it. You know, Ford came out with the MyTouch a few years ago, which is about this big. It's embedded in the dashboard, but now everything's moved. I think the F-150s have like a huge panel
Yeah.
of them
it's
that
like-
stick
yeah.
up from the dashboard. I don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
It's a different, yeah. I mean, it
Completely different
there's,
concept.
Yeah, and there's certain things like you'll have to get used to of not
Oh, I
having
guarantee
not
it.
having physical buttons for basically anything. I mean,
let's-
obviously you have the controls
Well,
on
let's-
the
before
steering wheel.
Before we start saying all this, I don't want anyone listening to this thinking like, oh, big baller going to go buy a Tesla. I've been looking at Teslas
Here's why. Yeah.
for a long time and wanted to buy one, but I've always looked at the price and just like,
Yeah.
I just for what we make, as our salary and stuff for running Chrome Unbox, just not exactly realistic. I'm not going to go spend that much money You know, and I'm not going to buy a Model X or like a Model S Plaid and spend $100,000. Like that's crazy. Like to me, that just sounds absolutely insane. And that's not a dig to anybody who's gone and bought one. Like if you got that kind of money, have fun. Go for it. I just don't. And I'm not going to spend that much money on a vehicle. I'm not really a car guy, but I'm a tech guy, and Tesla's, you know, scratch that itch for me and make me really interested in those cars. And so, just recently, just in, I guess this last week, they've dropped the price of the Model 3 and the Model Y. So seeing it with the Model Y got me, you know, is what got me looking into what the price drop was. And so I want to say they came off $7,000, I think, on the Model 3, which then put them back in the space where I don't know what the limitation was with the federal credit, or if it's just a new I don't know.
Yeah.
The ones we were reading yesterday are new. They started January 1.
I think those are all new.
And so I don't
because
think
for a while the credits went away.
Yeah, I don't think the price drop made it eligible. Well, I think maybe it did for some of the trim levels. Like it's eligible under a certain amount. Like you can't go buy a super expensive one and get the credit for some reason.
Yeah, because like the Mach-E GT, it would not qualify.
Because I guess they're saying, you know, if you have the money to go do that, you don't need a tax credit. Maybe that's how that's working.
Perhaps,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Because it says on Tesla's thing, the limit for your trim level has to be like 55,000. I think.
Yeah,
for both.
It'd be interesting to dig into and see why.
There's something to it, and that's got to be what it is, I would think. So, so the trim that I'm looking at, which is basically the basic setup, I'm not getting any of the extra stuff.
Which is still very nice vehicle. It's just their entry.
Yeah, and like the two big add-ons, there's the auto navigate, or the enhanced navigate, or enhanced autopilot, and then like the full autopilot.
Self-driving.
After watching MKBHD's video on the full self-driving, not interested at all right now. Did you see lately an engineer for Tesla came out, he doesn't work there anymore, and said that when they initially showed that demo off, it was a bit staged. Not like completely staged.
That makes sense.
And so it's just not ready for prime time, and I'm not in any way near ready to just take my hands off the wheel and let a car start driving for me. Now
on the highway, or like going down a road and letting it do its thing,
it still makes
but
me,
it's
makes me anxious even thinking about it right now.
My girlfriend's new Hyundai has
like the lane assist.
Yeah, so like driving down to Nashville, you can basically take your hands off the wheel. I mean, I
think I need to look into this. So the Teslas do something out of the box. I don't know what amount it is. I think the lane assist is there.
Yeah, because that's kind of becomes standard.
It'll have
on a lot of
lane
cars.
change, and you can like manually tell it, I want to change lanes and do that, I think is what it'll do. The auto lane change is like kind of take my hands off, and if you approach a vehicle, it's going to just go ahead and do its thing. That's like $6,000 to get that, and the Summon and the Auto Park, which, gonna be honest, that would be pretty sweet. I'd kind of like that. I'd love, like, if it's a tight spot, everybody get out of the car and hit the button and let it park itself.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, you know,
it's got the cameras
at the door, hit the button and, you know, let it come get me. Some of those things would be kind of cool, but from what I understand, that's stuff you can add later. It's a software update, basically. And so right now, that's not really my whole reasoning for getting into this. I'm just intrigued by Teslas. And so with that price drop, with the $7,500 credit, and with the market value of my current vehicle that's been paid off for a year now, it all lines up for me to go and get a loan on a vehicle that I've been wanting for a long time. That's going to be pretty close to the loan I had on the vehicle I just had, which is a pretty standard crossover SUV little type thing. And so as soon as I saw that and did the math, I was like, like I can do this now. Like I can actually do it. Like I've always told, like Joe and I have talked about Teslas a lot, and I was like, I'm not going to do this until it's reasonable, until it's a reasonable thing. But the minute it's reasonable, I'm doing it. And all of a sudden, I looked at them dollars, and I was like,
the price drop made them very
it's reasonable,
very intriguing.
And from what I understand, that's only going to last for a couple months. It's the plan for right now. So like I think they're trying to do it to kind of just juice up the stock prices a little bit, get some inventory moving out the door.
Got a fun Twitter.
That's right.
So I'm kind of in that. But I have to go fast and move fast, which is kind of my lane. I like that. So
hey,
that's just feeding.
I'm sure you can return it if something goes wrong.
Probably. I'm sure it's feeding that whole thing in me. And so the other part of that is, you know, obviously I've got to clear this kind of stuff with my wife, you know, and
We just air it out on the podcast first.
Well, no, her and I have talked quite a bit about it
Totally.
already.
She listens, right?
And she's kind of like, I think she's into it.
Yeah.
She's always kind of been into the idea of it, and so as soon as I told her about it yesterday, 2 days ago, she was like, she said, you know that meme that I'm not going to do it. I'm not
going to do it.
I did it.
Yeah.
She's off today, right?
Yeah.
You know what she's doing right now?
Shopping.
Well, I mean, maybe
Yes.
she's looking up trade values on her car.
Maybe.
Probably.
She's like, it's going to
She
be
loves her
his and
car.
Tesla
hers.
family.
Yeah, she loves
Her
car
car is
too.
not. It just looks really
Yeah.
nice. It
I
does.
still.
Get her the X with the Falcon wings.
Yeah.
There you go.
Perfect. She needs a Model S. You know? That's what she
Get her
would
the
want, though.
plaid.
She's like, I want a bigger car with more seating and stuff. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, we
Get her a Leaf and be like, here, honey, I got you an electric car
Yeah.
too. Okay.
Here's yours.
But yeah, we talked again about it yesterday. She came in and picked the dog up, and I was telling her a little bit about what I found, and then last night she brought it up. She's like, hey, did you do any more research on the
She's
Tesla?
in.
And I was
She's hooked.
like, I don't know what else I was supposed to do, but I mean,
Buy it.
yeah, I'm like I kind of there already, and
Yeah.
and so she was asking where we could test drive,
That's awesome.
and asking where we could maybe pick one up, and
Yeah.
all this kind of stuff. And so obviously for us, it's 2 hours any direction,
Yeah.
Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Nashville. So
Head on down to Nashville. Come on.
well, I mean, that's the talk.
Just depends on what
she
they
looked at her calendar, and we looked at next Friday.
Yeah.
But that was more like, let's go test drive and talk to somebody.
Right.
If they
Well-
don't have the inventory of the one I want, then it's like,
Right.
I don't
Yeah,
really want to go that far out of my way when they can just bring the car to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. The delivery fee
Oh, yeah.
is I don't know if under a certain mileage, I think it's pretty affordable to get them
Yeah.
just delivered.
Yeah. And even if they delivered it to Nashville or whatever, that's fine.
Go get it there. Yeah.
I'll go pick it up there. It's fine. But I don't want to just drive to Nashville and test drive it and then be like, well, y'all don't have what I want. I'm still gonna have to order it online. Like, if I'm gonna order it online, I'll just do it. I'll do it here. So
And then you're going to have a dealership hounding you every day of your life.
Yeah.
I don't know. We went and sat in one at a Tesla dealership and
They were like,
talked
"Man."
to them for a little bit, and they were like, okay, see
Cool.
ya.
Yeah.
Where was that?
In Nashville.
There's
No, we went to one. Was that California?
that was in New York City.
Was it New
Yeah.
York?
Yeah.
Okay.
In,
That's when
Brooklyn
the,
area. Or no, it's in Manhattan.
Yeah, we
That
didn't
was when
talk to
the Y
anybody.
was first coming out.
Yeah.
We just went in and sat in it, and then
The one in
left.
Nashville is kind of weird. It's in a very
Well,
strange spot.
it's-
But anyway,
Yeah.
I got
It's-
one order, a rental one through Turo.
Yeah, which is cool.
Is it
And
the
I
white
think
one?
that's like that's
No.
It's all black, and it's got a lot of upgrades.
Yeah. The Toro website is interesting, and I think that's a great way if you're interested in something like this.
I love it.
You can just go rent it and
Yep.
spend
They got a lot of electric vehicles.
yeah,
and-
spend a little bit, and you get to test
And honestly,
basically test drive.
like we priced one before we went to Florida last year. It would have been. We rented a brand new 4Runner limited SUV, which was awesome. I mean, I loved driving that car. You would think a SUV like that would be a little rough, but on the highway, but it was so awesome. Yeah, I think it was only going to be like 100 or 200 more to rent that white one that we saw in Indiana, but it wasn't available. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I've got this thing, and we're gonna pick it up
Yeah.
today, and they're gonna drop it off at Top Golf.
we're gonna do a little cruise around St. Matthews.
Yeah,
that's
we're
gonna happen
we're gonna
for
do
sure.
a little bit of that, and so I'm gonna test drive it for a couple days and really make sure that this is something that it's gonna be workable for us. It's gonna be a good fit, and
Yeah.
if it is, it really isn't gonna cost much more than the last car I bought.
Yeah,
which is
very
pretty
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, very cool. We've talked about some content. So stay tuned for that. We'll figure it out. Like I
We just gotta
love
figure out
the
where to
idea.
put it.
Yeah, I love the idea of just some very like this whole idea, even with Marquez doing autofocus as its own channel and filming everything on phones. You know, he's always said, hey, if you want to get going, like you can do a channel with just your phone. And I think doing short content and doing maybe some longer videos, but filming them on the phone and not making it this big production, not, because like obviously I love what we do with Chrome Unbox and we have such a cool aesthetic and we produce such high quality content. But there's just something so nice about making shorts and about maybe just going and filming a video about the Tesla with a phone.
why are we not filming this? I mean, seriously, I should have just filmed that entire thing.
Yeah. So yeah, stay tuned. I don't know. I think there's some interesting things we could do there. So
Yeah,
They're gonna let me put Flex on Robbie's car. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, we're gonna figure out a way to put Chrome OS on it.
Web OS.
Yeah,
I wonder,
we'll
does
see.
it? Their little computer that's in there.
I don't know.
People load stuff.
There's so much stuff I have to learn.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll have to
if
tinker
it's
with.
like partitionable, then possibly I would not mess with trying to install something on there unless there was
No,
a dedicated space to it.
Is it their own web browser? I know it's got a browser on it. Stuff.
No idea. These are all great things for some content.
I know.
Because
I mean,
there's stuff
and
that
that's-
I'm curious about.
Right. The people that are curious about Teslas and about electric cars in general, but that you just want these like little snippets of
And
information, and it's like I don't want to watch a whole review.
Right.
You know?
And also like Car and Driver, as much as I love Car and Driver, or Top Gear, whoever.
Right.
Like those can get pretty in the nitty gritty
About cars,
Right.
And like for me, I don't care that
it's like
much
the
about
techie
cars.
stuff
Does
that's
it
really
Does it
interesting.
get me from point A to point B? And
Yeah.
is it that fine? Then it's
Yeah.
a car. I don't care that much about it. I'm more about the utility of
Yeah.
the car. Like what can it do for me? Like what are some cool things it can do? And this thing's going to be chock full of cool things it can
Yeah.
do. So it's more like a tech gadget that also gets me from point A to point B, which
Right.
I'm really interested in.
Stay tuned.
So, yeah.
Content coming.
Yeah.
We're gonna figure it out.
We're
just
gonna
gonna
do some
it.
shorts.
I was gonna say we're just gonna film some stuff today. Get
Why
it going.
not?
Why not?
Yeah.
Okay. On to some news.
It's out of the way.
Week.
It's out of my system.
On to some news from the week. We've got a few minutes here. Let's talk about Stadia officially being done, and what you can do with your old controllers that are lying around.
I'm gonna look.
Laying around. I don't know.
I can never remember which one it is.
That you have lying around or are laying
Yep,
around.
they did. So yesterday
yeah.
afternoon it was still
I don't
live. Today, and it is.
It's shut off.
Landing page says, "Thank you for playing with us." Stadia was shut down on January 18th, and then below that they have play wirelessly with Bluetooth, which is what we discussed this week. So
Yeah, I mean
So-
that's not new. Like the Stadia's demise is not
Yeah,
new.
no,
it's just official.
It was just yesterday it technically happened, and you can say what you want about it. You can talk about Google Graveyard, all that kind of stuff, but I feel like they've done their due diligence by getting refunds back to people for games that were
Yes.
purchased, by unlocking these controllers so they are usable. Played a match of Fortnite last night with one. And
Played
making
on
that
Chromebook.
process,
Yep.
and making that process really straightforward. Like they did the work to make sure that they could issue a firmware update, because these controllers clearly are kind of smart. I mean, they were able to connect to Wi-Fi and do all that stuff before, so they've got some silicon inside. They can manipulate some stuff. So the fact that they were able to like issue this update and do it all over the web,
Which is dope.
yeah, and that's
so
what.
excited about
And
that.
like The Verge just published just a few hours ago how Google. That's the way you should shut down a service.
Yeah.
Not just walk away. They've done everything, honestly, everything that they could to, make up the service being shut down. But the Bluetooth, the controllers, obviously the whole landfill situation and the waste and all that. We don't want all this plastic and everything going into landfills. But my thing was, it is my favorite controller.
It's a
they're
very comfortable
great.
controller.
Yeah, I have the Atari VCS controller. I have a couple Bluetooth controllers. I have the Pro controllers for Switch.
Yeah, the Switch Pro controllers,
They're really nice.
It's really good.
But I love the Stadia controller, and I have 3 of them. And I was like, man, I really wish I could use that. Still haven't been able to get to work on my Switch, but to be able to fire up GeForce Now and just play something
It's
with
crazy
it.
that
Yeah.
the Switch won't see it.
It won't
I
see
don't
it.
understand that.
And maybe there's a different combination of buttons because
Because regular pairing is just Y and
Y
Stadia.
and the Stadia button, but the Switch wants you to press these 2 buttons.
for it to like link
see
or whatever.
It. So I don't know. I'm going to keep playing with it because I would love to be able to use those with the
I
Switch.
feel like there was something else I had because I paired some random Bluetooth controller to the Switch. I don't remember why I even did that. I honestly don't
because
remember.
I tried the
but I remember
VCS
doing it.
controller too, and it would not.
Yeah, there was something else.
You would think the Switch would just see it, but it doesn't.
Yeah, I remember this now. That there is some other step. I had to look it up and do something else with the Switch,
Right.
so it probably will work.
Man, I hope so. To be able to use those. My kids have gotten into Castle Crashers, which I didn't realize is like a 20-year-old game.
Wow.
That was released on. It used to be just available on Xbox through their store. It's made by Behemoth Games, but it's on Switch. And if you don't have it, you should get it. It doesn't look dated. It's just.
I've asked you this before. Is it on Xboxes, the Xbox Cloud Gaming
I've
thing?
never seen it because I looked for it a couple of years ago. We were in the office one day and something brought it to mind, and I started looking for it and could not find it anywhere.
What's it? Castle Crashers?
Castle Crashers. But it's on Switch. I bought it because I'm like, and it is exactly what it was on Xbox. You can play up to 4 players local, and my kids love it. It's a level up 2D scroll button mashing, and it's just to be able to use the Stadia controllers with that. I'm just like, that will be the only game I play.
Yeah. So what is while he's looking that up?
Yeah.
What's the website, and how can people get these controllers switched over to?
Yeah, so they've opened this up until the end of this year, pretty much. So if you have a Stadia controller, you have till the end of the year to unlock it and enable Bluetooth mode. It's just stadia.google.com/controller. Once you get to that screen, all you need is a internet connection and a USB-C cable. You plug it in, and then it walks you through the steps. It unlocks it. It downloads the Bluetooth update. It installs it, and then hopefully, we have noticed some lag on the Chromecast. Did you try on the Nvidia, the Shield?
On the actual box, no.
Yeah, we need to try
that.
What on Chromebook? Was it okay?
Chromebook's great.
Okay,
it's
so
great there. And to be fair, on the Chromecast with Google TV, the Xbox controller kind of sucks.
Yeah, so
it's not quite as bad as the Stadia one, but it's pretty darn close. So it's there's something up. My guess is that Chromecast probably only works with certain Bluetooth's a mess anyway.
So and that's another thing. Hopefully we have a new Chromecast coming soon, and I can't imagine Google puts out another one that doesn't have more storage and a newer processor and maybe some more RAM. And if they've beefed up the Bluetooth and everything, maybe I would love to see Google make something more along the lines of the Shield, not a Shield, something just
give it
in
some
between
power.
the Chromecast we have and the Shield.
Yeah.
And to be able to say, hey, you can play, because they're pushing GeForce Now super hard on Chromebooks, play GeForce Now on your Chromecast, use your Stadia controllers, use whatever controllers you want. But on Chromebook, it's, as Robbie said, it's really good. And we have hope that they are going to maybe roll out some more updates before the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it says on that landing page, it says, use this portal to get the firmware, download, install, blah, blah, but also for future updates through 2023.
Yeah.
So my guess is they'll issue at least a couple.
It wouldn't take long for them to get it tweaked to work well. So
but some of that could just be on the Chromecast with Google TV being finicky with what type of Bluetooth it wants. Because interestingly enough, the older Shield controller that came with the Shield, like the original box Shield TV, works great with the Chromecast. And so, but it's probably an older Bluetooth spec, and so
it lines up better with what's in the Chromecast. Yeah,
and it's got to be multiple years old. Probably not a Bluetooth 5. No, it wouldn't be.
Is
Bluetooth
the
5
4K Chromecast? Is it Bluetooth 5?
See, that's the thing. I don't know.
The new one is. We might want it.
The HD one.
HD.
Yeah.
We should try. Yeah, we need to. It takes a while to.
Yeah, there's a lot of testing we need to do here. Needless to say, your $80 controller is no longer a paperweight, and you've got options, and you can obviously still tether it and use it that way with a USB cable and all that stuff. So
and I would say if you're looking for if you want to use it with GeForce Now as a thing, use a Chromebook. Or a Windows device, or whatever, a web browser, a modern web browser, and hook it up to your television.
I'm assuming it should work with the Xbox Game Cloud.
Oh yeah,
I would think.
Yeah, it just all passes through Bluetooth on the Chromebook,
but HDMI to your TV.
It pairs up super fast on a Chromebook. I put it in Perry mode, found it, click it, connected. You know, it's they clearly made sure that all those things were lined up, and it works great. And again, it's a great controller, so that's kind of a win-win. It's not just that it works; it's great that it works because it's such a nice piece of hardware.
Yeah, and that's what I want. We may do the Chromebook thing because my kids have gotten into GeForce Now because my daughter, out of nowhere 2 weeks ago, my kids got really into Stadia after Christmas when they realized,
of course,
well, they saw all these games in the Nintendo eShop and it's like, oh, we've got that on Stadia. They Just Dance, and I had to dig out a phone so they could play that and this and that, whatever. Well, they've come to realize that most of those pro games that I had are on GeForce Now. And my daughter started playing Farming Simulator.
Really?
I don't know.
Are you gonna get her?
Planting corn.
Doesn't Logitech make the
like
tractor
$400.
stuff?
Yeah, it's insane. But she realized that if she, plants some wheat and does all this stuff, she can sell that and buy pigs.
What was
and
that?
she's
What was the Facebook game?
Farm.
That everybody,
Farmville. Yeah.
everybody
Oh,
was
Lord.
playing that game for the
It's
longest
gone.
time.
Contrarian, baby.
I've never played it ever. So.
Okay, well,
I'm like, everyone's doing it?
not
Absolutely
me, not me.
won't.
I am not getting near that.
Not on purpose. I swear to God, it's not.
Sure.
It's not.
So there you have it. Stadia is officially done, and if you
Yet
have
it
a
lives
Stadia,
on.
if you have a Stadia controller, you can turn it into a Bluetooth controller, and it's pretty dope.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break for an ad. We're going to come back and talk about some other GeForce Now stuff. Okay, be right back. Alrighty, welcome back, everyone. So I know we mentioned it on last week's show, but let's talk about some of the details of what we saw in Vegas in the, is it Nvidia? Did they say Nvidia?
No, it's
Nvidia.
Nvidia.
Yeah, Nvidia.
So at the Nvidia booth, we got a tour, and they had separate rooms set up that was kind of interesting. And the first room that we went to, which was kind of our focus, was GeForce Now and cloud gaming. And they had some pretty cool demos in there. I can't remember if we talked about them last week, but let's run through them again because it was
I don't
fascinating.
think we did. We talked to Peter
talked-
about them yesterday.
Yeah, when we talked, I think we mentioned them real
we
quick
just-
or something.
I
But
think we just said that Ultimate was available last week. I don't remember.
yeah, and what's interesting is like
Worth
they
mentioning
had
again.
they had 3 rooms. So we ended up going in room 1 as well. That where they had like the crazy. If you watched our short videos, you saw some of this stuff like the eye tracking where it
What did they
puts
call
fake eyeballs on you.
Maxine or something like that is what they're calling that.
But I just know you trip it out because you put your finger over your eye and it kept your eyes
Eye
on top.
tracking. AI eye tracking is what
And
they're
so
calling
the idea being if you were delivering something like a presentation, a lot of times you'll see people looking down because they're looking at one computer and then their camera's up here.
Yeah.
But they're
reading a
trying
script or looking at notes.
Yeah, they're trying to look at their slides and tell you what it is. And so this fakes that out, makes their eyes look up. But they also had like the different codecs for AV1 encoding and stuff showing like 4K video being encoded and streamed real time and how much better it looks and using AI for when it's not good and all that stuff. That stuff was all neat. So that's room 1 with some other creator stuff like 3D canvas things.
Yeah, that stuff was really cool, but it's all beta and it
Not our lane.
Not really in our lane at all.
No
So it was
way.
like,
Yeah.
that's neat. Okay. I don't even know what was in room 2.
We didn't
I
go
think
in.
it was all GPU
It was
stuff.
it was raw hardware
right.
stuff, and there was
4080.
literally nothing in there.
It was
for
basically
us.
a 4080 showcase
not
of their new GPUs to show how powerful they are. But the cool part is for a company that Nvidia does a lot of stuff now, but for a company that makes their money on selling high-end GPUs, they're kind of the name of the game. AMD wants to be them. Nvidia is the name when it comes to GPUs. Like, I don't know any AMD models of any GPU, but I know the latest. Granted, I've been shopping for golf simulator stuff, but I know that like the 3080 is the last one that kind of came was top dog, and now we got a 4080, and so I actually know GPU numbers at least a little bit now, and we don't talk about that on Chrome Unboxed, and so that's a big deal for them. Well, for them to have an entire room dedicated to cloud gaming tells me, and just listening to them talk about it and their team and the stuff that they're doing with it, this isn't like this is a cool little thing that we're doing.
Yeah.
Which is what it felt like way back when the Shield TV came out. This was, God, that might be 10 years ago.
Oh,
I was going to say close to
Shield's
10 years
been-
ago, probably.
Because it was before we started Chrome
Yeah,
Unboxed.
that one's been floating around here for
I remember what I wanted out of that thing was to run PUBG Mobile on it and use keyboard and mouse.
Yeah.
Because we had it
they
over
actually
at
had
Joe's
mapping.
house.
You remember they had
Yep.
keyboard mapping for that?
Yep.
It was like a special setting. Anyway, so they've been at that. Like when that came out, I wanted to just play Android games on it, but I remember there being streaming games on there, and I was like, whatever. And I tried a couple things. I was like, this is okay or whatever. This is, I get, if I'm going to stream it from my gaming computer in my house over my local network, maybe that's a thing. But to do this over the internet is just silly. And cloud gaming kind of just kept its head down and kept doing its thing. It kept moving. And for what it's worth, Stadia was a huge shot in the arm, I think, to the entire industry. I think Google coming out with kind of guns blazing a little before it was ready, I think, but making a real big stink about playing games in a web browser, because that was the thing that GeForce, or it wasn't GeForce Now back then. I think they just called it Nvidia Cloud Gaming, or I don't know, whatever. But it's been GeForce Now for a while. But when they were doing their thing, it was through an Android app. It was through, you know, their little box or whatever. I think Google coming out and being like, look, we've put stuff in place to make this work in a web browser. Like, now all of a sudden there's a flexibility here that you didn't have. And then just kind of going balls to the wall with their advertising, their marketing for Stadia. And yeah, it died and it didn't make it. But Stadia will always, I think, have this presence in this entire market for doing something that kind of made everybody else just wake up.
And that's what I don't think Stadia gets enough credit for that, because do you remember signing up for the beta before Stadia, the word Stadia existed?
It was, what was it called?
Was
Cloud, something Stream.
They had that one game.
It's when we were stuck in the damn airport.
I remember. I
the
can't remember the name of it.
The Nightmare at LaGuardia.
Yeah.
The 16 hours of
so we signed
LaGuardia.
What was it called?
I'm going to try to find it.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
it just had the word "stream" in it. Of some
Moonstream.
Anyway,
anyway.
Yes, it was just Assassin's Creed.
I remember signing up for that and then getting the email saying, "Hey, it's live," and sitting here in the office and playing it, and like, this is insane. Because even then, it was like, this game plays really well through the browser.
Yeah.
Project Stream. There you go.
Totally, it's streaming.
And not that there wasn't anyone else doing that at that time. There wasn't anyone else doing it well. There was
not in a browser.
No, that's true. Not in a browser.
That was the first one in a browser.
They revolutionized, and I guarantee you, Nvidia saw this and thought that we need to get ahead of that, and they are the company that has the power to do it.
I'd love to talk with Nvidia and talk with Google and see, like, what were some of these, like, pieces, because they've told us, but they've mentioned that there were some back-end things that happened with Stadia that did, you know, move the industry forward and allow for some of the stuff to happen. But I'd love to know, like, exactly what those pieces were.
And some of those things, like when we sat in NVIDIA's booth, as they talked about some of these things,
you're like,
real quickly went,
like, whoa, what are you? Okay.
What are you talking about? Like, I don't understand enough about the hardware to understand fully what you mean. And I would assume the same thing would be true if you really got into the nitty-gritty with Stadia. But what Stadia did was come in and open up in the browser, so no download needed, no install needed. Click to a URL and you are playing a game in the cloud. And they were, you know, all in on that, and it never quite caught on the way that they wanted it to. I feel like they didn't market that stuff well enough, and it wasn't ready to go at launch. They talked about it early. Remember the whole, like, your favorite gamer will just be able to put a link in there and you can just click in and join them or whatever, and like, that stuff was awesome, but it took too long to get to that point. And I think they underestimated some of the difficulties they would have at scale and yada yada. But all of that pushed Nvidia to rethink GeForce Now. I remember writing articles about it when it was like, oh, they're not, because remember we were doing it, the Android app and side loading and all this crap to get it to work, and it was janky and it was laggy and it didn't work, but it was like, it's kind of working. And then they were like, hey, they did, remember that announcement? They had 4 hearts in the Google colors in a GeForce background, and it was like, oh my God, they're going to bring it to the browser. And then they did, and then we tried it, and it was still kind of laggy, and it wasn't great. All of that changed because Stadia showed up. And so they started doing that stuff and focusing on how they were going to deliver this thing in the browser. And now I would argue, I don't think I have to argue, like 100%, that's the focus. Like, that's where NVIDIA's focus now. Yeah. The best version of GeForce Now is play.geforcenow.com. Like, it is so good. And, you know, now you got 120 frames, you got quad HD, you've got, and now all this new stuff that they're getting ready to do.
With the upgrades, it's
takes
next
it to
level.
Another level.
4K,
and it's like,
120.
And it's all in the browser.
Because there's the thing, is he said while we were in that booth, our goal is to show people that there are options for AAA gaming, and that it doesn't mean you have to go out and buy a $3,000 gaming computer. Right. I would argue that, especially if you're not wanting to invest in a ton of hardware and stuff and you're on the go or whatever, I would argue that GeForce Now is a better option.
Oh,
you go out and buy that computer you have in there for the golf simulator. 5 years from now, it's going to be worthless.
Well, and it would get toasted right now, playing the same exact game on GeForce Now.
Because who has the money to go out and buy a brand new 4080? Right, you know, just
every few years.
Yeah,
you know, games continue to build in complexity. you need something that's just going to scale along with it. Well, that means either just buying a new system or buy the next Xbox, buy the next PlayStation every time it comes out, or just monthly installments of this one thing that it's always up to date. It's always improving.
Yeah. How did they say they were getting latency down so low? I can't remember, because remember
It's a combination
was that the
of
reflex stuff?
Partly.
The
yes.
reflex, always delivering the highest refresh rates, even if the device you're using doesn't use it.
Those are the main
Which
two
that's
things.
like, so like for, and we'll talk through exactly what you get with Ultimate, but that was the one question I think somebody had, and maybe even you, Robbie, had asked, was if I don't have a display that is 120, am I still going to get any benefit here? And
am I
they were
wasting
like,
computing power?
Yeah,
like
you're still getting those frames quicker.
So it's actually beneficial.
Right. Yeah, so it's rendering that stuff quicker on the back end, so that actually is reducing latency. So when you talk about a local system, you got the latency from the Bluetooth controller to the device you're using, whatever, or a mouse and keyboard.
Xbox, whatever.
There's latency inside of a computer system too. You don't notice it, but it's there. Even inside of a closed system, there's a little bit of that latency. Then there's the latency of the processor processing the stuff and pushing it through HDMI to the screen. Then there's the latency of how fast your screen refreshes. And so all of those things, we're talking fractions of milliseconds, but they stack up, and eventually you get what they measure as, was it pixel to touch?
Click to pixel
ratio.
So pixel ratio.
The button got clicked, or something happened on screen.
You see it on screen, yeah.
And it's very small. So minute, most people wouldn't be able to pick up on it.
I don't know that this type of technology, I don't know that it'll ever be instantaneous, but this is pretty darn close. Because when was the last time you played a game on an Xbox and thought, man, there's some latency on
that
here.
120
it's
milliseconds.
120.
That's what
and
they measured.
GeForce NOW is 38.
38 on this
in a fully optimized scenario with great internet connectivity, right? Like, what were the internet? What was
we were in a hotel. I doubt very seriously the internet was that great.
I want to look. I'd have to look up the numbers, but I remember doing the whole 4K, because that's the thing. This new Ultimate, which is what the 3080 tier is now just called Ultimate, and so it moves you. Eventually, it's going to move everybody up to a 4080. It's going to push the limit to 4K 120 or under 4K. I don't know if it's quad HD or if it's full. I think it's full HD at 240 frames per second if you have the hardware to
then
support
the base tier will go away, and the current tier will become the base tier, the
Correct.
3060 or 80,
I think it's 3080.
whatever it is. Yeah,
So I think
which is already phenomenal, by the way.
I mean, save you $10 a month, and honestly, it's great. Like, there's not that much needed there, but to be able to just remove that latency even further and have. You've got the computing power on the server side and these new pods that they're processing stuff in, these server racks basically, that isn't going to have to, like when I crank all the settings up in Fortnite, for instance, you got to think it's got to render the game and do all the game stuff, but then it's also got to encode that game into I think they do AV1. It's got to encode it and then send that message to me to be able to see it as a video basically. Well, if it's wasting processing power on the game itself, obviously that encoding process takes a hit, and so that becomes, you get some latency there. With these new pods, I mean, these things are absolute monstrosities. I mean, rendering the game, not really going to be that much of an issue for them, and so that means the encoding never has to skip a beat, and so everything moves along. But that's part of what was it called, the sync thing, the
refresh,
reflex.
Yeah.
That's basically the 4080, and this gets into some technical jargon I don't fully understand. being able to render all of that stuff while making sure there's headroom for encoding, and then making sure that everything lines up vertically in the stack so that it's encoding and it's rendering all the frames to match up with the thing it's sending it to. So in this case, it's not sending it to because I think this reflex thing works on the 4080 just on a computer too, but it wants to make sure that as it's sending those frames, it's sending them in the right sequence so that it's being decoded on the other end in the right way, so that you're not losing. It's wild. It's mind-boggling what they're doing. So again, I go back to this statement that yes, a company that is funded by the sale of GPUs, I'm telling you, they're not playing around with this.
No, because
they took what Stadia did, and they're just like, they're going to another place. Because
they're taking what would be their retail resources and dedicating them to this. I mean, for every pod that they're creating, every server, how much retail loss is there.
It's a lot of money.
Because I'm sure the markup on those 4080s is substantial.
But yeah, I mean, they're going to be rolling. They started today, and it's like New York, San Jose, and somewhere in Germany. I think it's the only three.
That makes sense. I wonder if they took over Stadia's server in Germany.
Maybe
That'd be awesome.
I mean, they could just go buy out at least the actual physical
Facility,
locations and then just upgrade. Yeah. But over time, these pods are going to show up everywhere, and they've got a vast server network as well that they've been building over the last few years, and so I mean they're prime position to basically create a product finally that, from a very low end $200 or $300 Chromebook, that you'll be able to play AAA games without any issues at all. And the tide, I feel like, is moving so firmly with Nvidia at this point that, along with that announcement, they're like, oh, by the way, here's our games for this week. Like, they just keep adding games, like, every week. It's not a monthly thing. Every week. Now, granted, only one game in there had I ever even heard of.
Right.
I'm not a gamer.
Right.
I don't care. But at the same time, the more of that Steam library, the more of Epic's library, the more of Ubisoft Now's library that I can sync and play in GeForce Now, eventually the pressure of that tide will push everything over. And so the Activisions of the world that go, no, we don't want our, Call of Duty 17 Modern Warfare
8
blow up.
That's what everyone at Activision sounds like, by the way.
They do.
Just so you know.
Been there. Hoity-toity. They're going to be mad that their Microsoft thing isn't going to go through. But like there's these certain titles that you're like, why isn't this on here? Like, why isn't this available?
Yeah, it'll
like,
happen
it's
eventually.
silly. It's in Steam. Like, why isn't it on here? And it's all this licensing mumbo jumbo. But the force of that tide is eventually going to make it to where you can't not have it on there. Like, if you're going to have it on Steam, it needs to be allowed on GeForce Now. And I don't understand why that would be an issue whatsoever. Like,
I don't know.
For instance, if I logged into GeForce Now and I put my controller here and I'm sitting here playing a game while we're having a podcast and being super rude and shooting Fortnite up, and I go, oh wait, just a second, and I go hide in the bush, and I go in there and get my Chromebook and hook everything up, log into GeForce Now, and start that instance in there. Guess what? This one turns off. I can only do it on one device at a time, and so I fail to see how that's any different than having a license for a game on a particular computer. I get that. Like, I can't share that because it's only on my computer or my Xbox or my PlayStation or whatever.
Is it because
I can't share it with you? It's
Right.
like,
But if you make purchases,
thing.
it's got to be a money-driven thing. When you make purchases in Fortnite on mobile, does that go through the Play Store or does it go straight
It
through?
all goes straight through Epic. That's their whole lawsuit.
That was the whole lawsuit
That's
thing.
probably the reason the
but it wouldn't be Play Store.
But no, what I'm saying is the externals, the people that are serving up Fortnite, however, I don't know. I'm not sure. Maybe they want to get their cut of it, but maybe Epic's not willing to give a cut of.
Oh no, Fortnite's fine.
Yeah, but I'm just saying games in general, not Fortnite specific. I'm saying ones that aren't being allowed. It's probably a matter of financials.
If it's in Steam though, that's what gets me. If
Right,
it's in
yeah.
Steam, I can download it on six
and is
computers.
it from a actual licensing standpoint, is it just that when you spin up that game, it's on a different computer maybe
That's
every
exactly
time?
what it
and
is.
so they can't figure out a way right now to get through that. They'll have to eventually, I think.
Yeah,
But
and that pressure continues to mount. Like, your game not being on GeForce Now is going to become a liability instead of it being like, we don't want our game on
And
there. Like, if it's not, then you're going to lose out on a huge player base because more and more people are going to continue adopting this because it's a scalable model for gaming.
Well,
it makes so much more sense in so many ways.
Yeah, and we've talked about what it would look like for students who, these schools are getting more and more into e-gaming and esports. And hey, you have all these Chromebooks. Well, rather than having to buy some, gaming rigs to put in this room, you can just leverage these Chromebooks you already have.
Chromebooks. Just log in
it's
here,
all
done.
It's all cloud-based. And
I mean, at CES, we're playing Fortnite in 1080p while live streaming it on a Chromebook that's going to cost less than $300 and is running a very low-end ARM chip. And like, so
MediaTek 520 now.
Not just esports, but all these schools that are focusing on creation and YouTube and all that stuff. That's huge because they don't have to invest. I mean, $2,000 per device.
Right.
I need this stuff to start working for golf simulator software.
It'll
that would
happen.
be amazing.
It'll happen eventually, one day. But yeah, I mean, you get these kids now who are used to that flexibility and the ease of being able to hop into games and the quality of gaming.
Yeah.
Right? They're not going to then want to go buy some gaming rig because, at the booth tour, you were sitting and playing on a 3080 rig.
Yeah.
And then playing on GeForce Now.
Like a literal
and
3080.
you and the other guy were both like, I think this one's better.
Yeah, they
and
had it hidden.
They pulled the
see.
side of the gaming rig, and they were like, oh, this one's actually running on GeForce Now.
It was a Chromebook too, wasn't it?
I think it was, yeah.
Or whatever. It might have
Doesn't
been
matter, yeah. Cloud-based.
It might have been a Surface.
Yeah, they had
Oh, it
Surface
was.
in those two.
Yeah.
Because they had a
the
Surface actually
ran
running.
it like garbage.
Yeah.
Then they had it streaming on a Surface. Then they
And then
had
the
an actual-
3080.
A 3080 actual gaming laptop, and everybody liked the cloud one better.
Was it a 38 or was it a 40?
It was 3080.
Oh, okay.
It was. I mean, it's beefed out 3080, which is not a. I mean, it's not like, oh, well, that's kind of a trashy CPU.
Yeah,
like
no.
until like 3 months ago, it was the best thing you could buy.
Yeah.
And so, I
It's-
mean, it's fascinating to me where it's going and how quickly it seems to be getting there. Like I was afraid with Stadia and with GeForce Now, like we had maybe hit the peak of what you could do streaming, and it's like this is never going to quite be what we want it to be. I'm like, nope, it's
So-
right there now. As long as your internet connection is decent,
Right.
And I want to say they said like you can do like the quad HD 120 frames over like 15.
20 or 15, I thought, is what they said.
Now
Yeah.
4K 120 is probably
Yeah.
going to push that up. I bet into like a 25 megs, but that's not even that
I
fast.
mean, we're
of
getting to
internet
the
speed.
point where, T-Mobile, I got an email from T-Mobile the other day. Their home internet light is 50 megs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's
so I'm
their
like,
light version. you
Yeah.
know,
yeah,
so.
and so I mean, I don't want to act like everyone's got that kind of internet because I don't.
No.
I mean, the United States is a massive country.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that,
in our country, that's just not the case. But in a lot of European countries,
you're getting.
that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Just and a lot of places in the world, because it's more tightly and everybody's kind of more compact. That if that country has decent internet, they just have decent internet. I mean, the U.S. is sorely lacking in that. in
Yeah,
that
and it's
space.
funny because
So
a
if
lot of
we're
people,
okay with it.
a lot of people think it's the other way around. They think it's a financial thing where it's like, well, a lot of people can't afford high-speed internet. Like, no, high-speed
just
internet
not
is
there.
very affordable and available in most countries.
Just the infrastructure.
Like India, largest country population-wise in the world, most people have high-speed internet.
Yeah, and it's a landmass problem in the United
Yeah,
States.
I
That's
mean,
what it is. I mean,
Running
there's-
fiber out into the middle of Montana is not an easy thing to do.
it's difficult. We have a large country, like land size wise, so it becomes difficult.
We had a interview episode that we put out this week with Zach Alcorn from Google, who is working on Steam. In our chat, he was like, "I know a lot of these games work because I played them all myself." He was like, "20 minutes of all these games is a very strange way to play video games, but I have tested them." And they're obviously making strides in expanding and improving Steam on Chrome OS, but do you all think long-term cloud gaming is the way that this will end up all shaking out, or is there still a place for Steam?
I think Steam on Chromebooks will be one of those.
There's going to be people that'll be excited about it, but it's not a mass market thing, maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe it could have been had it happened a little faster. I think the inroads that Nvidia is making right now are probably going to be a thorn in the side of that whole effort.
Yeah.
Just in general.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Once it comes out, if it's like fully usable, and so we've yet to see that.
It's in beta quality right now in beta channel, right?
Yeah, I feel like beta quality.
I don't know if beta quality is quite.
That's being pretty liberal.
It depends on what you're doing.
It depends on the game.
But yeah, it's
And again, this is dependent on the device too.
Yeah.
Like they're recommending 16 gigs of RAM. You know?
Yeah, but I agree with Robbie. I think the timing's a little off. Could have been sooner, but they have to get it ready because if they'd launched a year ago and it was garbage, it would have.
right.
Google's focus for Chrome OS right now is drawing the consumer masses, and the way you draw consumer masses is give people a reason to buy something.
Right.
Features mean nothing if the features don't have a benefit. So this is a bridge to gap to bring people off of Windows PCs who are Steam gamers.
Right.
That way they can get them on Chrome OS, and then they realize, hey, Chrome OS is a really great platform for
Right.
other things too, video editing,
That's true,
LumaFusion, this, that, whatever, GeForce Now. And I agree. I personally, I used to not think this, but I really feel like cloud gaming is going to become the future at some point. I think we will see the Xboxes and PlayStations of the world turn into. They're still going to make hardware. I think they're going to be Nvidia shields is what they're going to be. They're going to be cloud boxes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could happen. Now, a lot of gamers would listen to this and be like, "No way!" But they probably also haven't tried GeForce Now
absolutely
recently. The improvement rate with what Nvidia is doing
The last year, just the last year,
it's bonkers.
Our video that we made in here, one of our most popular videos on YouTube, was when they
just launched it.
And so that was 2 years ago,
year and a half, 2 years.
Year and a half ago. And look at what they're doing now.
It's working, and it was a novelty. It always was, and cloud gaming felt like a novelty. Here lately, it's basically been since the gaming Chromebooks have come out. Right. Like that's what's caused me to be like, I'm going to give this a real try, and I'm shocked with how good it is.
Another hat tip to Stadia too. I mean, like my kids, we got them a Switch for Christmas because we'd been talking about it for a while, and then when the Stadia went under, we're like, let's go ahead and bite the bullet on that. My kids are still getting used to looking through the store and having to actually install games,
right?
Update them.
Have they had that yet? Yeah, absolutely. Stuff like that.
I updated.
They got in the store and they click it and they expect it to start playing because my kids grew up on Stadia. How weird's that? My kids grew up on Stadia, but that's what they know.
I did an update on Apex on the PS4 a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I literally was, I think, 2 hours, something like that.
Had to buy 3 extra hard drives.
Yeah, no, it was 100. It was like close to 100 gigs.
If your kids get into Fortnite on the Switch, when those updates come,
we installed it.
My kids know, like, just put it down.
When my nephew was over the other day,
just a different way of gaming.
He's big into Fortnite, and I was like, I'll put it on there, and you guys can play it. But my kids don't really play Fortnite, whatever. I had to delete like 5 other things to play it. It's crazy.
It's just a different way of gaming, and I do think there's still, like you said, I think there's a place for Steam on Chrome OS, obviously, and the work that they've done there is awesome. Like talking with Zach was a really interesting chat. Definitely go check out that conversation. But it's breaking down these barriers, of I can't do that on a Chromebook. Well, I would get a Chromebook, but I can't do that, and at least having that option there for those who want a Chromebook and want to experience Chrome OS but are super into gaming, this will give them that option on
I think
Steam.
As long as the expectation is realistic,
right?
Like come at it with the same expectation you would with buying a Windows laptop.
Right.
So if I go buy the nicest Chromebook right now, so the HP Dragonfly Pro Chromebook shows up, I get it, and it's 16 gigs of RAM and it's Core i5, and I'm like, ooh, this is so fast for a Chromebook. Well, if you buy that as a Windows laptop and said, this is my gaming laptop, you're laughed out of the room.
Right.
Like that's you can do basic games, and maybe it's like medium level stuff or whatever. You can probably play Fortnite on like medium
because and that's the thing. As far as Intel has come and as powerful as the XE graphics are, they are not a graphics card.
No.
It's like me saying I can take my Versa. I can pull a small trailer with it, can I? Absolutely, I can.
Load it down, though. It's going to get real
destroy
squirrely.
My car? Most
Probably.
It's not. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think, if people will approach it with that mentality, if people think about it that way, like if that was a Windows laptop and you went to buy it, what kind of gaming would you expect to be doing on that from Steam?
Sure.
Okay, well, take that exact same thing, because even if they perfect this whole Steam container, they get it everything's just
it's the same as running it on Windows.
It's still using the hardware on the device.
Exactly. Like you wouldn't go buy a Surface laptop to go play really hardcore games.
Right.
And that's what Steam for Chrome OS is for. In my eyes, it's for the casual gamer. I used to play Steam games a lot, and the older Source games, Portal, Sid Meier's Civ, stuff like that, they run fine on mediocre hardware. I'm not going to install. I'm not going to go get into a competitive match of CS:GO on a Chromebook. It's not,
and CS:GO runs pretty well.
It does.
I've already run it pretty well, but I've never gotten like Apex Legends to even install.
Right.
It tries and then it fails and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, it's so weird to say, but for those people, if you want to use a Chromebook and you want to, go and play these types of games, well, guess what? You probably need to go use GeForce Now.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy to think that's
options.
That's the case.
Yeah, it's great to have options. That's kind of this whole idea of breaking down barriers, giving people options for what they want to do in whatever they need to do to get their computing done, you can hopefully do it on a Chromebook. But I think that's it for this week. Appreciate you all tuning in and listening and watching. If you are watching over on YouTube, which you should be, go check it out. We filmed this stuff.
I know.
Yeah.
You can
Video. Never know what you're going to see.
You can watch us talk.
New plant every week.
It's riveting. It's riveting.
You can watch and see whether or not we get real plants or fake plants.
You can tell if we're in a hurry or not because Paul's not.
My brain is.
Paul's looking pretty good though right now.
He is.
He was left on
He's thriving in the other room. We didn't want to mess with him.
He was left and while we were in Vegas.
We forgot to
nobody
get a sitter for him.
Yeah, we should have told Josh.
Well, and then we came back. It was 2 weeks really because you were out of town.
Yep.
And we don't think about that stuff.
Yeah,
so.
he was mistreated. But yeah,
sad.
you should definitely watch. And if you like this content, give us a thumbs up. Go down there and click subscribe, and make sure to ring the notification bell down in the corner so that you get an alert when we put out future episodes like this weekly show or interview episodes that we do. But that's it for this week. We'll catch you all next time. See ya.